I can distinctly know my stages of learning as a coach. Probably first 2-3 years, it's about what the hell am I doing? Poor people, every time when I look back on what I've done, I thought, oh, you poor players, you guys have been through hell.
I want to bring in the monk now. What did you get from that? Was it a year with the monk?
Yeah,
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the long and the short of it was your family or your team is a reflection of you as the coach. How we communicate, what our approach is, the values, it's a reflection of you because you're the one that's leading the program. This year, 2025 is a big year for us. In 2027, we've got to have 7 world-class athletes. At the moment, we only have 1. Growing up, have a bit of violence in our house. I think I was the luckiest. I didn't experience physicality, but a lot of my other, well, definitely my mum and my other sisters and brothers did.
Dame Noeline Taurua, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
We're very excited to have you in studio today. We have spoken to so many people. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to this episode. But one of the constant themes is that you've got so much going on. You're a mum and a grandma and you're coach of the Silver Ferns and you're giving so much of yourself to the community. So I wanted to start by asking, what does your day-to-day look like? What did yesterday look like? What did you do?
Oh, God, I was just thinking, what was yesterday? It sounds terrible. I was thinking, what day was yesterday? One of the things that I keep saying, because of my current job at the moment, and I keep saying as Stephen, our HBD, is I feel like I'm a paper pusher, So a lot of my work at the moment is about planning for our upcoming series, working with our leadership group, and doing a lot of that stuff. So I'm an admin queen, and at the same time can't sort my own stuff out. So a lot of paper at the moment.
I did wonder about that because as sports fans, we generally see you on the sideline or in the lead up to a series, and it's that day-to-day grind away from it. So you've answered half of it, which is admin. I wondered, how many individual player meetings and meetings with other coaches, does that fill up a lot of your weekly schedule as well? Yeah,
it does. At the moment, they're with their ANZ clubs, and what I always say is that we're the supporting actresses. We're there to support the athletes and also the clubs and the coaches so that they can do their thing. I always find it's a bit of a balance as to what our role is. We can't come over heavy-handed like the big mama or the big brother, but for 6-7 months of the year our clubs have our athletes, so what can we do to help move them, shift them and make our competition better?
Time-stamping this a little bit, but we had a game in Hamilton on Monday night. Were you there?
I wasn't there.
And how many games do you take in person versus watching back on video? Or
Yeah, I watch all the games. It's just part of it. And I watch. I'm watching netball forever. And between Warriors or whatever, I've sort of got to have one eye over here and not hog the Sky TV. So I
heard Maths is in there as well. You big
Maths. I love
fan?
Maths. I love it. I just watched Department Q actually the other day. I couldn't actually put that in there on the question that you asked. But just those things that you just don't think.
Yeah.
That frivolous, nothing sort of series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So
it seems boring, isn't it?
Well, that's the reality of most people's jobs. I mean, most people's jobs is you get into a routine, you do the things that you have to do. It's not all standing and pacing up and down a sideline and nail biting on a 1-goal win. There is an admin element to the job. Just like people think all we do is come into the studio and sit down and talk. We do a whole bunch of stuff away from exactly
all the rest
spreadsheets.
Of it. Yes.
Zero.
I love Zero. Yeah, Zero. We just finished our end of year tax. All that fun stuff.
Yeah, we've spoken to, we've got some really cool voices to bring in here. And the first one I want to bring in is Esther Malloy, who's been with you since 2018 as the manager of the Silver Ferns. I asked her to describe you and sort of what made you special or different. And I want to read you what she said. She would say, I would say she's smart and driven. Knowles has the most phenomenal work ethic. She's an incredibly hard worker and works to an incredibly high standard. She sets the bar high. I think on one hand, she's fiercely competitive. She's driven to win. But on the flip side, she's so kind, caring, nurturing. She's the most patient person, and she's got this amazing sense to go by her gut. And she has this feel. It's hard to describe, but she feels things, I guess it's sort of on a spiritual level. And I guess that shapes who she is as a person. She has this ability to see greatness in people, possibly before they can see the greatness in themselves. And then she starts nurturing and growing that person and developing them because she sees where they can get to at the end. I think her real strength and what sets her apart is her ability to connect and work with people. So good, like such incredible words. The question I wanted to ask at the end of that is, do you see greatness in people? Do you see that in yourself, that you have that ability?
I think, first of all, I think that's beautiful words. And I think she's got me to a nutshell without sounding big fat head or anything like that. Those are the things that mean they're important to me. I sort of feel people are important to me, and my role in my job, but also anybody, like it's to some degree it's bringing out the potential. And in my eyes, and I don't know if it's sort of like, the avatar, I see you, and hopefully you see me, because I just sort of feel where the world is at the moment. There's just so much, I don't know, so much uncertainty, and, sometimes people question themselves, or we have to be labelled or categorised or whatever it is. But, a word that's always bandied around is authenticity of a person. But really, like, deep down inside as to who you are and what do you stand for, and for the others around to really respect that and try and bring that out so that our way we work is always for the good of everybody. So I truly believe that. And whether that's my upbringing or how I am and it's my DNA, that's means a lot.
There was something that she said in there, which is an interesting one, given you work in a field where data and stats and there's a lot of information, but trusting your gut and going with your gut and your gut instinct, does that override sometimes some of that information that you get presented?
I think the great thing about high performance sport is there's a science to what we do, and that science is research and evidence based. So you can only build a house so many ways. So if you cut corners and your house is going to fall down. So we can pretty much predict what those numbers are going to say about an individual. However, there's other things that you can't measure. How do you measure the heart? How do you measure the love, and the determination or the commitment, the X factor of an individual, and how do you do that? And I think for sometimes you can forget the humanity of what we do. And I think that's the thing I always say that brings out the beauty in our sport. And when you see them doing their thing, it's just blimmin' magic. So it's getting the balance of everything, but never forgetting. I always think, and I've always been brought up like this, it's the people. The people always talk. They'll always tell you what you need to know, and you've got to listen to what that is, and then you just navigate with that person as to what's best.
My only interaction with you has only been through the screen or watching you on the side of a court. And Esther talked about connection there, and already in the first 10 minutes of this, I feel like a connection. Have you always been able to connect with people on that level really quickly?
No. I think probably the biggest thing is I've found my voice, and I'm still finding my voice. I think that's the biggest thing, and I know it goes to my upbringing, and probably in my family, being the youngest, you don't have a voice to some degree, like depending where you are and what situation, you don't say nothing. So, and depending, like when my dad was alive, you definitely don't say anything. So I think as I've sort of gotten more confident with myself, what I do, how I do it, and knowing that I've got a different way to other people and being really comfortable in that space. So I'm still learning, still getting there. Sometimes I think, why didn't I say something? But I think at the end, my heart's always there.
The next voice I'm going to bring in is Laura Langman. And
oh, God.
Laura is brilliant. Strap in, I've got a little bit to read here. We asked her about her experience with Knowles and what you would like to be coached by. She said she's the type of person that made you feel a bit like you never really knew if she liked you. And I mean that as a compliment, but it doesn't sound like it, but it is. She has a real genuine care for you as a person, and I think that really came across when you'd sit down and have your one-on-ones. She'd want to know how you're going, and that's nothing to do with on court, because she has this insane emotional intelligence that she knows. Even if you don't say it, she knows. She knows how to get the best out of people and has really subtle but effective strategies on getting players to grow confidence in themselves as a person, and then I think that really starts to come out on the court. What I think I love most about Knowles is, like, you can't bullshit a bullshitter, and she will call you out on your shit straight away.
I love that.
And we spoke to both Laura and Katrina Rore, and they both sort of said the similar sort of vibe, that they were never quite sure if you liked them or not, but saw it as a real positive. Did you see that?
I can understand that. Sometimes I think my kids are the same. We're also referring to legends of our game who have had many coaches who have the skill and ability to do that. But, you know, like when I'm thinking maybe a younger player and you think, oh, holy shit, it'd be like going to the principal. You know what I mean? Yeah. I find it quite funny because both of those players that you've mentioned are, as I say, legends and cool chicks. And they've been able to handle me.
But it's interesting, right? Because I think as a head coach with your players, I don't think you can't be too matey because you've got to make difficult decisions at the end of the day as well. So there has to be a delineation of the jovial nature, because there's a job that has to be done too. So I guess you can understand why there does need to be that sort of kept on edge a little bit, I guess, from a player's perspective. Yeah,
I can. And I think it goes with the job. But I always think, you know, you always got to look at yourself, and that's what I do. I'm lucky that I have those relationships with those players, and that they've sort of been able to see it in another way. But I've also, this probably comes back to it, I also think if a person can stand, if somebody challenges them and they can come back clearly and say, nah, that's bullshit, or nah, I don't agree with you, then they're standing in their own power. You know what I mean? And in my mind, maybe a warped way, I'm actually asking them, have you covered everything? Have you done everything? Because at the end of it, it's going to be you that's going to be found out. And maybe it's my lovely way in a stupid way that's actually helping them through that process. Because if they can handle that challenge from me behind our doors, then they can handle any challenge when they're up against, you know, other players that are going to out there to kill them. You know, that they know that they've done everything in their power to be the best that they can, to be able to go out there and perform. So maybe it's just a warped way I've got.
And that's what they both said. Like, they respected the like they grew because of the challenge, which is exactly what you want to be doing as a coach. Right?
Yeah.
The other thing that they both said, and I've already picked up on it here, is they're like, you're gonna have so much fun with Knowles, because when she gets excited, when she talks, sometimes she gets her sayings around the wrong way. So she'll say stuff like, oh, sharp as a dice instead of sharp as a tack. And Stephen does it as well. Oh, yeah. So Stephen will be like, oh, we'll burn that bridge down when we get to it. I'm like, no, that's not the same. You've got to cross that bridge when we get to it. But is that a case of you?
True.
Because I can see it in you here. Like, you're passionate when you communicate. Like, is that just the nature of how you are when you're in the moment, that things are just flowing?
It does, and it is. It comes from my gut. And I was saying actually to my husband yesterday, sometimes I don't know what comes out of my mouth. But if it's going to come, it's going to come. And I got to know that that's just how I am, instead of trying to stifle it and get my head. If my head's in there, then I'm not free. I know that. So, but I think it adds to the quirkiness maybe of Auntie Knowles maybe. So,
but I wondered how that comes out, because again, the perception is maybe that sometimes coaches will script what they want to say to the players in team meetings versus speaking off the cuff. Like, do you have an approach to that when you are talking to your team?
Probably a bit of mixed. Sometimes I have to go in the box, depending what time, how long I've got, and what I need to get over in the message. But there's moments within there that I'll just go. And once again, I think I've been around long enough to know just to go when I need to go, instead of worrying about, oh God, should I say this or not? So I just go with it.
Freestyle, I like it.
A strong start, Knowles. I want to. Can I call you Knowles? Oh, sorry.
You can.
I've jumped the gun.
You've done.
Auntie Knowles,
Yeah.
call me Knowles.
Sorry, Knowles.
You're the third dame we've had in here, and every one that we've had, it almost doesn't the dame thing doesn't sit too comfortably with them. So I always used to force Stephen to say, "You got to call her Dame Lisa, you got to call her Dame Susan," but we've just landed on Knowles straight away.
Thanks for being easy on me today. I want to go back to the start and sort of talk about the foundations and your background and where you came from. Can you tell us about your parents and perhaps sort of what parts of them show up in you today?
Actually, we were Jeez, you guys have been reading my mind because you must have been in my house. I was actually talking to this yesterday to my husband, and why we were talking this was actually about one of our daughters and where she is at the moment. And he said to me, "Oh, you're like your father," and I said, "No, I'm actually not like my father. I feel like I'm more like my mother." So my mother is, I would say, very patient. Very lovely. I'd say, like, never drink. She doesn't drink. She's actually passed now. Didn't drink. Didn't smoke. Was a nurse. Family is massive for her. So loving, and would take anybody. And so we've always had people come into our house, like, you know, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and you get fed and all the rest of it. You know, she came through the days of being a housewife, and you know, like in the holidays, you know, you go fruit picking and the whole family go and all the rest of it. So she was a very quiet one in our family, but very loving and supportive of the family, the glue of our family. Then my dad is a wee bit different, very strong on tribal matters, I would say, past as well, strong in Ngāpuhi lands, and he worked in prison. He went to Vietnam. He was also the culture advisor to, at that time, Jenny Shipley. So he was very forthright, and just through actually our talks I was having with hubby, he was sort of saying, or we got to, you know, I probably have more 80% of my mother, and my poor dad, and then probably 20% of dad when shit hits the fan. Or when things don't go, or when you've got to stand up and you've got to talk. And there's moments that where I don't question myself. My hubby said to me yesterday as well, he goes, "Geez, you can bloody talk." You know, because he's always going, "Oh, can you get off the road, do it like this?" He goes, "God, you can talk." And he goes, you got to fast, you know, if a question's asked, you can go back really fast. Fast-witted, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's my dad." So I would say there's the makeup of me, and then probably a 5% of myself is in between. But yeah, very strong with my mother's, probably naturally my traits.
So interesting that you say that, because what you described is exactly what Esther has described in terms of some of those traits that came through, and you can see both of them from your parents, which is really interesting.
Isn't it? Wow.
There's different levels of depth that you can go into in conversation, right? And like, we're here for it, but I want you to sort of like come to whatever level you want to come to. But with your dad, like, I've sort of been reading up about it, what you said, you know, Vietnam War vet, advisor to the government, you know, face of the Waitangi Day protest, like a strong figure.
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with him growing up in that childhood as the youngest of 4, 5? Youngest of 5, and what was that sort of dynamic like?
Well, we found out when he passed that we've actually got more brothers and sisters.
Really?
Yeah. So, which we sort of knew, or somebody else knew in our family. So we probably got about 9 in total, at which I'm the youngest. Dad came through that generation, I suppose, of hard work, of farmers, of you know, having 12 kids or whatever in their family, so they're that tough generation. And I think as well through his experience, whether with war, was probably one of the things that really came out to me, and what that does for a lot of soldiers when they do come back to New Zealand. I had actually mentioned this in another podcast, and it was only just because somebody asked me, and it was never something that I've sort of put out there. But, you know, growing up, we did have a bit of violence in our house, and I was the one being the youngest and not really knowing much, that was always the person that not necessarily put in the room, but was that person that would console Dad and calm him down. So I think I was the luckiest, where I didn't experience physicality, but a lot of my other, well, definitely my mum and my other sisters and brothers did. So I don't have a lot of times recollection of that hurt. But, you know, for all of that stuff, you know, we love our dad, because there was always those moments when you need him, or he was always there for all of us, but just had to go through his own, excuse my language, shit to get out the other end as well for a family. And I think at that time as well, you know, alcohol plays a big part in people's lives, whether they're trying to, you know, get through their own mental issues. And of course, being in war is bloody shit, you know. So, you know, they do these things to help themselves, but at the time, you know, they do a lot of things to family and the harm that happens in that space. So, as I say, I think through my character and my softness, you know, and coming from my mother, I was the one that actually calmed the situation a lot. And I think that also links to why I actually don't think I know why my voice has probably taken me a bit long to come out and be comfortable to be able to say something. And I've always said, you know, like when you're in a room and you're bloody shit scared, you know, sometimes you can't say nothing, you know, and you hear things. So, you know, I don't take anything away from our family, and love my mum and dad to bits.
Thank you for sharing it. It's so insightful when you're navigating difficult relationships in a family dynamic, and then we zoom out and look at how successful you've been. Like, it's hard not to draw a bow between those skills you kind of developed in childhood.
I know. And that's why we always talk about identity, and vulnerability of people. And sometimes you don't know what people's stories are, you know. So that's where that humility, the, you know, whanaungatanga, the manaakitanga needs to come in. And that's why it's not separate in my mind as to just because you're an athlete, you're a person, you know. So I think I actually know, because of my upbringing, because of the stuff that I've gone through myself, that's why I am like I am, but also able to really be open about my gaps. And it's sweet as, you know, it's not something that you can measure or evidence. It's just part of how it is. And
there'll be a lot of people listening that have been in that same situation and maybe haven't had the ability to connect the dots in later life, and then maybe it's still causing them some issues now. So talking to these sort of things is really valuable as well. Yeah, I believe so. I think sometimes, you know, you can hold these things, but as I say, no one's ever asked me. We always talk about it behind the scenes as a family, and the next minute we're laughing, you know, like of all the good things, and I think that's family dynamics, but at the end you only got one family, we only got one team, we only got one person at certain roles, and, you know, how can we make it the best for everybody, but know that we don't leave the person behind. You've referenced Ngāpuhi already and talked a little bit just then about a couple of Te Ao Māori principles as well, but is that something that guided you through your life, or something that you've come into in later life? Yeah, I've always had people around us growing up.
the reo is not part of, my kids have all come through kura and things like that, and speaking it, they always say, oh God, you speak the wrong way or something, double tongues or whatever. But I know enough to understand, and it's quite an interesting topic in itself. You have a lot of people that are coming through who have the reo, which is amazing and beautiful. But, also I've been brought up with the old folks and people telling you what to do and not to do, and the respect in and around that, So it's sort of a lot of different worlds that are starting to come together and what's true, So I think it's an interesting topic to talk about. But when you dive into the te ao Māori and as I say, the principles, it fits teams in my mind, and it fits teams around people, So yeah.
And then in that childhood, where was sport? Was it a focal point for you growing up, or where did it sort of sit?
Yeah, sport was in our community. It was in our family right from a youngster. Athletics was my first sport. And I did hurdle and sprint and 400 metres, 200 metres. But it was actually Dad that got me into running. We'd get on the field and he'll race me and beat me and all the rest of it. But I remember one clear thing that he said to me. He said, oh, you're lazy. And I was only about 9 at that time, and he said to me, oh, you're lazy. And I thought, oh, you bastard. So I went for this run, and 5Ks where we lived, and I busted my boiler, man. Like, I got sick afterwards, like I was sick for the whole week. And I thought, right, I'll teach you. But he always comes up with these things, like you're lazy, or why are you doing things? If you're not going to do it properly, don't do it. He always say, there was a few times where my mum was my coach, and I'll go at her, and then he'll say, you will remember this when she passes. He says these little things, and maybe how I've, or he'll say, when you get out there, you go and dominate. And maybe now that I'm reflecting on this, some of this stuff has actually come out in how I communicate, because it's a challenge as well. But it's a thing that either you do something about it, or you take the words that he says. In my mind, nah.
I forgot to tell you this, Niles. This is going to be an incredibly reflective process.
Yeah, therapy session. Yeah. You'll need to lay down and a couple of days off. It'll be like that 5K run in Taupo. You're off. She's off for the rest of the week, guys.
I had enough.
So yeah, we have heard like very fast, very athletic. Was it always netball? Were there other potential sport paths you could have gone down?
Played heaps. We always did. So you had softball, athletics, netball, basketball. I think that was the only ones. Hockey. That we played.
And you find your way down to Wellington eventually, and the PIC club, I think, is a big part of that. But what did that environment kind of give you as a young adult?
Smoke-free PIC. They're like another family.
I remember that. I remember that branding.
I know. And the drums and everything like that. When I went down, the icons, what I would say. So it was a big transition for me as a player. All these people that played in that club I had seen on TV. And like when you go to the courts, like, oh, wow, there's Y and there's Rita and, all these players. And I'm not saying it was the beginning of the beginning, but definitely that link to a club that's got so much history and success, and also the religion that's behind the
Pacific Island
Church.
Yeah.
So we'd train in the church. They had decked the inside of the church out with a netball court. All the aunties there that gave you steak and blimmin', bacon and eggs pre-games, but very family orientated, and it's still alive and kicking now. So that was probably the beginning, and also the beginning of being coached by Waimarama as well, which was massive.
There's 34 games for the Silver Ferns in your playing career. It seems like there's a bit of an interesting chapter. How old were you when you had your first kid? Early 20s?
Yeah. Oh, God. She's 32 now.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
32 years ago.
32 years ago.
Just stick with that. Just stick with that.
32 years ago.
But did you have a baby and you had an ACL and you had to recover from it and make the Silver Ferns? Is that kind of like an important chapter in the playing career?
Yeah, geez, you guys are good. You've researched really well. I always think that there's those moments in time. It's like the sliding doors that people have to make choices which way they go, left or right. So I did my ACL. I was 5 months pregnant. At that time, I was still playing for Wellington, and I remember in those days of ACLs, you had a full cast, so from your ankle to top of your thigh. I remember sitting there like that, and my big puku was out, and it was those moments of time, do I keep playing, be a mama, what do I want to do? And it was at that time, and I said, Jesus, Noeline, what the hell have you been doing? Once I have baby, once I do my ACL, I'm going to be a beast. I'm going to get out there and train. So that was those moments. Up to then, I relied on my pure talent. I'm one of those kids.
Yeah.
Come through, pure talent, don't do nothing, good enough to get there.
It's one thing to say it, though. It's another thing to do it after you've had a baby. So was it just a switch that flipped in your mind?
Yeah, it was a switch. Yeah, sometimes I don't know why I get through this. Yes, it was a switch.
Amazing. But where did that determination and that drive come from? Was it just something within that said, this is what I've got to do, I've got to represent my country?
I don't know if it was represent my country. This is the bad thing. But it was, I actually want to play and I need to get my shit sorted. That actually wasn't actually I'm going to represent my country. It was like, I actually want to play. And then as I got in there, I thought, actually, I feel better. I'm improving. Yes, I can.
So it's one thing to see an opportunity, another thing to take the opportunity and then hold on to the opportunity.
Correct. That's what they say. Yeah.
What was like, was it amateur? Was it semi-pro? Like, was there any money involved in the game at this point?
You did get, especially for New Zealand, you got reimbursed. Might be a daily allowance. Got your pair of shoes. You took annual leave off work.
Yeah.
The good old days. Good old days.
Well, one of your mates from the good old days is still alongside you now, which is Debbie Fuller. And she described you, and I think this has kind of been something which has come through your whole career, but small was the first thing. Small, fast, elusive, but world-class timing. Now, did that ability on the court eventually help you with your coaching career?
Yes. Why it was I was continuously told that I'm a short goal attack. That actually always stuck in my mind. You're a short goal attack. In my mind, on the back of it, I'd say, well, not unless I'm put into a bloody stretcher every day, I am always going to be short. And it did help my coaching because, yes, people maybe something in their physical capability, whatever it may be, but you've got to be able to look at other ways or what's the other X factor. So, and how can you exploit the X factor to take an advantage as a team or make that person better? At no time did anyone say that you're fast. Use your speed. How can you use your speed and where's the positioning on there that you can make yourself available? Do you know what I mean? But it was always you're too short. So whether that was just a perception in my mind or whatever, but I always heard that. So I think because of that X factor is really important and how you can exploit that and what each individual can bring. Now,
we don't want to skip over the playing career, but to fast forward a couple of chapters, is it an injury again that sends you into coaching?
Yes. Yeah, so I had 2 ACLs on the way, and the last one was in 1999, just going for the Worlds, and still wanted to be there. Came in as an assistant coach for Magic under Ruth, and then the next time she got the head coach role for Silver Ferns, and then I popped in.
So you finished playing in 99, 34 caps. And then 2002, you start coaching the Magic and were there for 11 years. Did that just kind of happen? How did you get your foot in the door there?
Yeah, it did happen. Yeah. I never had any thought that I wanted to be a coach. And so how it happened is that we moved up. At the time, my mother had a brain aneurysm, and we were all down in Wellington. And I had been looking after her for probably about 3 years. And then what happened was the family wanted her to come back up. So that was the instigator for me to move closer up north, closer but yet far. And then we ended up in Rotorua. So what happened at that time, I was sort of on the end of my playing career. Ruth Aitken asked if I would like to be an assistant coach, and at that time I thought, oh no. But she said, oh well, would you want to play? And I said, oh, okay. And then she said it could be the 12th person / assistant. So, oh, okay then. And then so fell into it that way. And then, as I mentioned, the following year, she went in to be the head coach for the Silver Ferns. And then that's when the board asked me to pick up the coaching role.
Was there a moment in that journey where you thought, oh, I actually really like this? No.
It was very hard. No, I didn't like it at all. I would say probably the first 5 years, I can distinctly know my stages of learning as a coach. I really do. You know, they always say the first 2 or 3 years, or especially actually the first year was, oh, you can't do it like me. Oh, you can't do it like that. You know, so you have these certain ways. Oh, look at that. That's not how we used to do it. You know, so you're battling all the time. Probably first 2-3 years, it's about what the hell am I doing?
Is this while you're at Magic?
This is while I'm at Magic. Like, poor people, every time when I look back on what I've done, I thought, oh, you poor players, you guys have been through hell. And that's why I'm so grateful for like the Laws and the Caseys and a lot of those players who have stuck with me, because they've been tormented, honestly. They've been abused and tormented sometimes with me.
But you spotted those two in particular when they were still teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Casey Williams, as she was then, and Laura Langman.
Yeah.
What was it in those two particularly that you saw that you thought these are good enough to bring into this environment?
That amazing X factor. But also the farmers, you know, like, so they work hard, massive ethic. Casey, they all got their own uniqueness. Casey's just a beautiful, they both are, but just a really good person to have in the environment. Beautiful hugger. You know, like, so when things go, she'll give you a beautiful hug. Just calm down, you know. Like, they're like my children to some respect, because we sort of come through the ranks. And Laws was just like, I remember the very first day she came in, she was a training partner and she was up against Jenny May. Jenny May's like, Jenny May's Jenny May, but Silver Fern at that time, and she took Jenny May on. And she was like 15.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, you don't have very many young people that's taken a senior Silver Fern on and going hard at her. So I thought, oh, I like that girl. She's got no holds barred. So she just went for it. So that caught my eye. But very grateful for both of those ladies. And Irene's probably another one that has helped me in my career.
Yeah. Esther brought this to my attention. She's like, there's 7 New Zealand netball centurions and 6 of them came through the Magic under Knowles' watch.
Oh.
Irene van Dijk, Casey Korpua, Laura Langman, Maria Folau, Leanna de Bruyne.
Oh, yeah.
Like, again, like reflecting, that's crazy, right? Like 6 of 7 and they all came through your factory. Like, you speak about how you feel sorry for these people that were there. Like, they've all gone on to have incredible careers and they came through you.
Yeah, they've also been through other teams, just FYI as well. And, yeah.
But what was it about that?
About that.
Yeah, that environment that you eventually created that you think maybe attracted, because some of those players weren't from that region, so they were coming down to come and play for the Magic as well. So what was it about the environment when you reflect on it that maybe made it special?
I feel it's we were always a family club. So Cheryl at that time, our CEO, set it up like that. So very family orientated. We worked hard. And every day they were challenged, and I would like to think we'll be doing things differently every year. So we'll have different, team building stuff, or going down the mountain, up the hill, or whatever it may be. But those things sort of challenged them. But overall, I feel that we were all competitive and we all wanted to win. And because we didn't have a lot of resource as well, as I say, people was our greatest strength and commodity. So I thought we did that really well.
You sort of smile to yourself there, thinking about some of those pre-seasons, and talking to Laura.
I'm so sorry.
She was like, man, sometimes we went through some.
Sorry.
Can you give us a little example of what you're comfortable sharing? Because she said she uses some of them now in her own coaching, but some examples of some of the stuff that the team building exercises, perhaps?
Just crazy. You could not get away with some of this stuff without any health and safety, plans. We'll be walking through the night, and there's no one there, tied together, all these things. It's just, you couldn't do that nowadays.
But are you thinking these up yourself, or are you pinching and borrowing from other areas?
I pinch a lot. I hear something and I thought, I quite like that. And then I do a bit of research, but it's also, okay, what do we need at this moment of time? Where's our gap, and what could we possibly get out of that particular session? But at the end of it, it was more, I think as it went along, it became quite a bit of a joke, because what are we doing now? But it's cool that they still remember some of these things. And as I say, the benefit that has come out for them, it definitely showed it for us out on court. And that was probably evidenced through our success as a club at that time.
Well, the only New Zealand team to ever win the ANZ Premiership when it was New Zealand and Australia, is that right?
Yeah, we had good players, really good players. So, yeah, that's cool for the club.
Your coaching timeline kind of looks like this. You were the Magic for 11 seasons and became assistant coach of the Silver Ferns, but then in 2013 stepped down from both. And kind of interested in this chapter where you sort of stepped away from netball for a few years before you joined back up with the Southern Steel in 2016. What did you do in those years, and how come you stepped away?
Yeah, I actually, my mate Debs, I actually helped Debs at that time. She was the head coach for Mystics, so I went and helped her, assistant coach, supported her. And I did my masters during that time. I think I had a kid in between there as well, one of my kids, my son. And then I also helped Te Aroha Keenan, who was doing the New Zealand under-21s as well. Had my finger in the pie, but not pressured.
What was your master's in?
It was, I can think now, performance coaching, science, social science, which actually supported what I do, so...
So presumably you step out, but you've always got an eye potentially on coming back in the future during that period?
Yeah, what it did, I'm not an academic. I'm one of those kids that went to school to eat my lunch. But what I found, it was sort of trying to decipher, how do I work? And trying to get some frameworks that I can understand, that's me. Because I go with my guts sometimes, I don't have enough stability to know what is my go-to. So I found that through going through and doing that for 3 years. So I got frameworks, I understood social science, all these social identity and, all these flash things. It made sense. I thought, okay. So there was another aha moment where I didn't have to try and search in myself to find out what I need to do with that team at that particular moment.
Which is crazy, because you've had 11 years at the top, at the top, and then you go away for 3 years and upskill yourself to be even better.
I think these are the great things. These are the things that I find about sport. Your access, or the networks, or the way that you need to look at yourself to try and be better. And I think being involved in sport naturally puts you into that space. So it's cool. That was only one part, and then I went to go and see a monk, and then bloody hell I got...
Oh, we're getting to that. We're getting to that. Yeah.
Yeah, the monk is... The monk is an interesting...
Before we do... So 2015, it was quite sort of highly publicised. You went for the Silver Ferns role but missed out. Why? What happened there? Because you were the most successful sort of franchise coach in New Zealand history. It seemed like it was your job, but then you didn't get it.
Yeah. I think interview processes are quite cool. I like them. I think prior to going in, this is what I teach my daughter at the moment, she's going through them, is the prep that you do, and then how do you want to take that interview? I'm sort of thinking myself as to how you can control that interview even though you're on the other side. What do you want to give away? What do you want to say? And I'm very clear that when I went into that interview that I was going to say what I was going to say. You know, you can be guarded, but then I think coming out of that, then it gives the opportunity for the recipients to think, are you that person that they want or not? I always come out of it thinking there's nothing else that I can possibly say. So even though it went the way that it went, sweet ass, in my mind, it just meant at that moment of time I wasn't the right person for what was needed, and that's fine with me.
So you were not the right person for the Silver Ferns at that moment,
yeah.
But an opportunity comes up in Australia, and it seems by all accounts that you are the right person, which is at the Sunshine Coast Lightning.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I think, once again, sport's quite small, eh? Somebody always knows somebody of somebody. And at that time, Sunshine Coast Lightning was something like 51%. It was a new club that was established or going to be established in the new SSN, which is the Australian competition. And so I got a call from, at that time, the CEO of Melbourne Storm.
The rugby league franchise.
The rugby league. So they own that club, and that what they had asked if I'll be available and want to put my name in, and so it all sort of started from there. Honestly, my first thought, I didn't actually answer the phone for like a week. So he rang, he rang, and then he texted, and I thought, oh, who's this? You know, like that, and I didn't answer for a week. When I did finally answer, to know who he was, I was like, oh, like in my Melbourne Storm, like, whoa, you know? I should have bloody picked up, you know? So
playing hard to get.
Oh, no, I hope I haven't buggered it up. The very first thing he said once I signed the dotted line is that Melbourne Storm won the premiership on the second year of their existence, going into what is called NRL. So the head is on you.
Mm-hmm. And did that?
And I went, you know, like how I'm saying my dad,
yeah.
You know, how like you, and I'm like,
go for that 5K run.
Let's go. And I thought, right, you bugger.
Yeah.
So like, whoa, I love it.
But is it? Sorry.
Is that a conversation with you moved the whole family over there? Like they sort of they're following you?
Yeah, massive conversation. At that particular moment as well, my daughter was 16. And prior to going into that, you know, and they're sort of at that age, and her father, my hubby, said to me, this girl, she's not listening to me. You need to spend some more time with her. She's
I thought Ed was here for a second there. It sounds exactly like him.
Like that, eh? Yeah. So I was getting the ultimatum. And then what happened was, because I sort of wasn't home, I actually needed to be there with her. This moment was bonza for our family, because what it meant was I will train and we will have our matches at the same place. For Magic, I was always either in Hamilton, I was always, travelling. So for me to be in one place and me to be more with my daughter at the time, plus still do my job, was just what was needed for our family. So it was perfect.
And at the time, have I got this right, that you were the first and only employee?
Yeah.
When it's so it's one thing to take a call from the CEO of the Melbourne Storm. It's another thing to sign the contract, and then it's another thing altogether to go, right, I guess I got to build a franchise and win the comp in the first year.
These are the things that excite me, I think. I don't think I know. You know, that challenge, and that nobody's done it before.
Well, you're also a Kiwi in Australia too.
Yeah.
So does that help you, or does that hinder you?
Well, this is what actually came out of it, which actually helped me, I feel, where I am now, because you've got to talk yourself up.
And which is not a natural thing for Kiwis to do.
Yeah, it's not natural. And so I had to sell the dream we had to get started contracting and the rest of it. And I had to sell the dream to the players that I want you. So, you know, the research would be, about that person, what I can do in their job, but in their role, to make them a better. Where do they want to go? But secondly, that I had to talk myself up. What can I do to help that? Knowing that I've got nothing. At that, we didn't even have any. We had nothing. We had no offer, no balls, no nothing. So it was, and then knowing that I could back that up. So I sort of had to, get myself prepared every time I talk, especially some of these players were legends, I sort of believe, in our sport, and how little old me can sort of come in here and say, how you going? But a lot of things I think was really good because being a Kiwi, not going in there with airs and graces, you can just talk to the fat. I think also helped as well with that relationship.
Was Laura one of your first signings?
Yeah, I begged. Nearly begged. Laura, finish.
But was it important to get somebody in the camp early that understood how you worked and could almost be another mouthpiece for you amongst the playing group?
Yeah, definitely. Laura was one, and also Edina Makaere, who I've known. I've known her since 16 as well. So that age. So it's important to have people in there that can back you up, can interpret to some degree, but know how you work. So it provides the stability. So those were the first two that I went after. Was it
rejuvenating that experience, building something with your own hands?
Love it. We Sunshine Coast Lightning, and I'm puffing them up, is the most successful startup club in Australasia. We did 2 grand finals, won that, and then the third we got into grand finals and buggered out. But that's massive. And as I say, we started off with our team and just 4 people behind the scenes, but we worked really hard. And that formed our our values. For and with. So, and we did definitely for and with each other for the first 2 years while we established ourselves.
As if your plate wasn't full enough, the Silver Ferns job becomes available at the same time, right? And you do this dual role where you're Sunshine and the Silver Ferns, which I think was the first time it had been done. That was just an opportunity you had to take? Yeah,
it is. And it's an opportunity that I'm honoured to take and to be asked as well. And, of all the years that I've missed out, I actually went for the job previous to 2015. I think I went for it 3 times, if I'm going to be honest, 2 or 3 times. So, and all those times when I think back now, maybe I wasn't ready because, with the experience that I gained in Sunny Coast and the understanding of the opposition, I felt more confident of where we were in New Zealand, because sometimes you don't get that day-to-day connections or understanding of what other competitions are like. And Australia always held up in high regards no matter what, like the number one, because they are number one. So it actually softened the blow for me, thinking, oh yeah, we can do something if we get the right people. So such an honour to get that role and that position. And after 9 or 10 months after then we got the Worlds, which is a lot of people coming together.
Yeah, okay. This is a period I really want to dig in on because I spoke to Esther and I want to put it in perspective a little bit. So she says, to put it into perspective, when Knowles and Debs, who's the assistant coach, came on board, we just had our worst ever result for the Commonwealth Games. Coming 4th in 2018 was entirely unacceptable, and we were at probably, in my time with the Ferns, which I've been a manager since 2008, our lowest moment. Knowles came on board, and not that she was our saviour, but she came with fresh ideas. She had 9 months to turn the team around before we played our World Cup in 2019 in Liverpool. I don't know anyone else that could have done that in that period of time. It's a huge shift you're asking people to make. You're asking people to trust you right from the start, and to then go and win that is unbelievable. She hit the ground running for sure when she came into the Silver Ferns, but she really had to shift the beast into a different space. I'm keen for you to take us there. Like, how did you earn that trust, and what did you do specifically? Yeah,
it's similar to Sunny Coast, and I always think you've got to have a spine. And that came from Melbourne Storm, actually, that I use, that when they do selections, they have a spine and then they work everybody else in and around it. So one of them was wooing Casey Kopua out of, well, at that time, retirement. She was still playing clubland, but had given up Silver Ferns. And then my good old buddy, Laura, as well. Maria was still involved, and also Katrina as well. So we had a spine. Once you have a spine of legends in our game, then you can build the rest of the players in and around. But Debs was a big part of that because I was still coaching in Sunny Coast. She did a lot of the groundwork in New Zealand to set up the relationships with the clubs, but also be quite clear about what it was going to take for us to be able to win Netball World Cup. So I feel that a lot of other people were involved in that whole campaign. And sometimes as well, like I sort of feel like when you're down and out, and when things haven't gone right, how you, like, say for example 2023, and you've gone through a shit time, so to speak, the only way is up. And there's a lot of stats that say that happens, like a lot of teams when they've gone down and you get a coach that comes in, might be just the right vibe for that moment of time, then it lifts, it automatically does. So I think a lot of that sort of comes to play as well, and I was just there for the right time and coming in with maybe different fresh ideas that I know that worked, plus also the success of Lightning, I think, and the understanding of the athletes that we'll be playing up against also would have helped.
When you walk into that first training camp or that first session as the new coach with new ideas, is it a case of they start right now? Like, do you have to stamp your authority on the group from the very first moment that you walk in?
Well, what usually happens is you do a lot of work prior to going in. Now, whether that's talking to individuals or talking to groups, that they know what to expect. So pretty much having a clear overview or a campaign plan is really important, what your direction is, how you're going to do it. And then once you get in, layering it. So I always think it's like scaffolding. You scaffold. Because if you go too hard too soon, people go, what the hell's this? And you gotta work at the speed that people are ready and can absorb. And then you just keep layering it. So sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, but that's why these spines or the people who sort of know you or provide the stability will keep it consistent. Yeah, whether that's people on court or people like Esther and our support staff.
I want to bring in the monk now.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, you're a master coach at this point. You're right. You've done your masters. You've done Living with the Magic and your Silver Ferns, and you're coming in. But you've worked with sports psych as well, David Galbraith.
Yeah.
But like, what is it? What did you get from that? Was it a year with the monk?
Yeah,
and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Tormented. I was tormented. And then all it was about me. Yeah. It's the onions that you're peeling out of yourself. Oh, God. Tormented. If I look back and say, would you do it again? I say, nah. But it was probably one of the, good stages of my life.
What time period was that in?
Oh, it was one. So the story is, it was actually in my Magic days. So we never got anything less than third. We actually had a good roster, but couldn't quite get to win. And then I was always, and I think it was in my own stage as well of where I was in my coaching, always looking for the magic ingredients. So one day I met this guy, met him at the cafe, I heard about him. How can you help? And then I found out he's a bloody monk, and hallelujah, yep. And then
like an actual monk.
Well, I think he was now. Geez, Steve. Sorry, Steve, if you're listening to this. Apparently, you go through monkhood, monkship,
monk school.
And then I think he got to that place and then decided he wasn't going to go there, and then went into this other work, like around the consciousness space and spiritual and all the rest of it. So how we started was he was going to be there to help us. As it went on, he was starting to turn the mirror on me. It was too late before I couldn't get out, and I had invested too much time to keep going. So that's pretty much how it went. So the long and the short of it was, whether it's your family, which it makes sense now, your family or your team is a reflection of you as the coach. How we communicate, what our approach is, the values, it's a reflection of you because you're the one that's leading the program. So things will happen in media and like killing me off or saying things about me or whatever, and he'll say, so does it serve you? And I go, does it serve you? So he'll ask me these questions. You know, you talk about these questions that have been challenging. I don't know if it serves me. And he would always ask me, who are you? Who are you? At the beginning, I'll say who I am. And then I go, I don't know who I am. Yeah. And then I am. And then am I? You know, like this. So once again, it's all those layers where then at the end, this is who I am. This is how I am. And it sits and lands properly and it's me. So that's probably that section that I went through with it. It took me a bloody year.
Did it fundamentally change you?
I believe it did. I believed it made me look at myself. I believe it made me go into those things personally, you know, in my family, and made me understand why I am like I am. And through those times you find your strength and your voice. So I feel at that moment of time was probably the stage where I went into that voice stuff. It actually helped me to talk to my father, you know, and not necessarily address a lot of that stuff, but, you know, say where I am and I love you, and I was going to say asshole, but but I love you, you know what I mean? And hey, let's keep going. So I think that gave me the strength to go into that space.
Do you use some of those strategies that the monk used on you when you're talking and working with your players as well?
It was hard. So I don't. It doesn't sit in me to go that hard on somebody, especially when I know somebody's struggling. So I would probably be more selective in what I would say, depending on that person and that moment of time and where they are, or what I think where they are.
And that's that gut coming through, right?
Yeah. He was hard. You know, so, but I was up for the challenge, and as I say, sometimes I'm in there with all my body in there, and as my hubby says, you die with a sinking ship. So, yeah.
DG's another one that you've worked with in the past, who's we've had on the pod, and a lot of the people that we've had on the pod have worked with him before as well.
Yeah.
Which has done another guy that just gets you thinking in a different way.
Yeah, softer, I find. And he has that way, and I actually got him over to Sunny Coast.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. So for the first 6 weeks, I got him over and asked him to help me. Didn't have to pay for him in anything, which was awesome. And he just had a gap. So he only came over for one night, and he had I think he might have been in sevens at that time. And he introduced for us to be more vulnerable. So e.g., like over there, like it's 6-1, so they have 6 players over there in comparison to 1 over here in netball land, and the pathways are vicious. But what happens is their pathways are so stringent on how they play the game, what size you are, what height you are, and to some degree that's their strength, but it's so tight that anything that comes out of that, it's foreign to them. So he came over, and that was one of the things that he brought in, is us singing.
Did you start with the ants go marching one by one?
No. What was it? There's an anthem that always happens down in South Island. They always sing it. Hey, Mama, rock me.
Oh, Wagon Wheel. Yeah, Wagon Wheel.
Wagon Wheel.
Yeah,
that was a very
the national anthem of Hamilton.
Yeah, awesome. The Wagon Wheel. We got the Wagon Wheel out. So that was the first one. Yeah, and then every week after that we sung. And then we slowly brought it into daily.
And
actually, I bring that into Silver Ferns.
Yeah.
We sing.
Laura was speaking about that. You would separate, so the attackers would sing one verse and the defenders would sing another one. And she commented on how memorable it was, and how now when she watches the Ferns belting out, she thinks it's related to that sort of singing you brought in.
Yeah, it's there's a vulnerability piece in there, and I can't sing, a lot of us can't sing, but there's some beautiful singers. If you can be in that place where you can just sing, and you don't want, you're with your mates and all the rest of it, what I have found and feel, and I think it's to this, is when we're on the line and we're singing the national anthem, what I've seen is I can hear on both sides, we're bowing out, but you can feel we start to sway. And it's the most beautiful, we're in sync and we're swaying to it. And I sort of feel that's the space that we do when we're in our training, we're singing there. It's that connection piece. That sort of knows that we're all together on this, and there's no, we're not judging. So it's sort of a different way of looking at it, but it's around that vulnerability piece.
You spoke about your understanding your values with the monk, and speaking to Esther, she talked about pure and how important that has been to the Ferns. Can you tell us what pure is?
Yeah. When we put it together, and it took us 6 months, and that was going into the 2019 Worlds, and we were trying to find our values. And so we had done all this work behind the scenes and had all these words, as you do. And our physio at that moment of time brought out pure, and it was a pinch of the 100% pure of tourism. So we used that as the acronym. And P is play to win, U is united, R is ruthless, and E is the explosive game that we play. And under all those words, then there's a lot of competencies, blah, blah. But the biggest thing that I think when it brings in the spiritual side is the pureness of a person. And that's why, the vulnerability and that it's like a baby, there's no airs and graces about a baby. There's no ego. You're there because you're in that moment of time. So I think that's that's the offset to what the meaning of this word is. But you've got to be able to earn to be in that place, and people call it, the zone. It's exactly the same. But you can be in the pureness of a group or with people behind the scenes. And I suppose that's our holy grail. Fast forward to 2024, we had some of our past Netball World Cup winners come into one of our camps, and they all talked about the same things, the same words. So even though we've been able to articulate what pure means, those words have been before us, which was quite cool for our current players to know that.
Just something I've picked up on. You've said a couple of times, I think, and then corrected yourself and said, I know. Is that one of the work-ons that you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, God. Yeah. I've been on this couch too long.
But language is important.
Language is important. Sometimes, as I say, I don't know what comes out of my mouth, but I do know. And not be shy to not say that I know. Sometimes when I say things, I sound like I'm a big fat head, or when I'm hearing it, when it comes out, or just shut your mouth, or whatever it may be. So these are the things that I talk to myself in my head, but I do back myself, and I do know.
So one of the things I want to pick up on that point specifically, and Laura let us in on the night before the final in 2019, and there's an exercise that your sports psych has asked the team to do, and he's put a chair in the middle of the room, and each person has to go up and say how they're going to mess up the final. And the players go up one by one, and Laura said she can't remember what she says, but she remembers what you said, and you were the last person to speak. I know what you said, but can you remember in that moment?
No, I don't know what I said.
She said you got up, stood behind the chair and said, I'm not going to mess up the final. I've done my job. I know exactly what I need to do, and we're not going to mess this up. Oh. And she said that just filled the playing group with supreme confidence that the next day they were going to go out and win. But is that a moment where you're just in flow state?
You can feel it. Yeah, you can feel when I sort of think that 2019 Worlds was a perfect campaign because you can feel as you build. And as you build, everybody, as I say, everyone's in their pure state. Then you get to like business end, and you know by what the vibe is and the energy in the room that we got this. So, you know, sometimes you can overthink it or dramatise it or analyse it instead of letting it be what it is and being all right to say that.
There's another point, and this is a little bit niche area for me, having been in team environments, but she also said that you would do daily monitoring and you have to report on how you're feeling and where you're at, but you sacked it off after the quarterfinal stage because when you get to that point in a competition, it's just about going out and doing the job and not having any excuses.
Yeah.
Was that a deliberate choice from you to do that?
Yeah, that's the beauty of business end. You can't do anything, you know, so you can't worry about the things you haven't done, and don't worry about it. So don't spend your energy on that space. It's for the now and the moving forward. So I think once again you can get hooked up and stuff, and we can just analyse it. Because I also feel another thing is when you're in that space in your head, you miss the moment. We miss seeing people that's in that stadium. You know, you miss the moment where people want to see a good game and entertain, and they want to see people free, you know, play that. If you're in your head, you're going too tight. And I always feel that's the difference a lot of times when teams haven't been in the business end, because they either overanalyse it or they go in too hard going in that week and put too much in. And then when they go into like that game, they haven't got any experience that they can link it back to. So that's probably the thing that I've learned as you've gone, is that you do the opposite of what you would normally do. As it gets business in, you lighten the load, lighten the love, lighten the togetherness, and so you don't miss the moment. Otherwise, you'll regret it.
Because that's what Katrina Rore said as well, is that you were encouraging perhaps that spine, those more experienced players in that World Cup, to enjoy the moments, to stop on court, to look and find your family and to do those sorts of things. Yeah,
very much so. It's the appreciation of where we are. You know, so it's cool because it's just and recognition of those people who have been there, but it's such a good vibe when you're in that space, pure, and you can wave to the crowd.
Did you have those moments yourself with your family being there? Did you stop and pick them out and enjoy those moments when they were happening?
No.
but they are there though, right? Your family is there?
They are there. They know don't come to me. I'm working. It sounds terrible. It sounds like actually double standards. I'm working. I'm in my space. They respect that, you know, because when I finish, then I'm all theirs. But I'm in my space with the people that I need to be at that time, and I'm doing my job.
What do you remember about the final 90 seconds of that 2019 final? Because you've had this journey up to there. You've got the coaching role. Like, unbelievable what you've done in 9 months. Like, was that just adrenaline pumping? Like, yeah, what was that like? I
actually knew that we would win that game. So if we got over England in the semi-finals. So we had played Australia like in the quarterfinals. We held a bit back and we only lost by 1. But I knew that if we played them again, some of the stuff that we held back will unleash in that game. So the big game for us, which we're actually a bit nervous, was the game before the first semi-finals. But once we won that, I knew we had it. So, yeah. But
it was a 1-goal win, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty bold statement. Like, I knew we had it, but we won by, the clock is ticking down.
Yeah.
Are you feeling every pass? Or
feeling every pass, every moment, every sweat, But you can see it, like as I say, you can see it you can see it in the players' eyes. You can feel it in their bodies. You know, and we know, they know. So,
that must be a weird experience too, because
lovely.
But you can't influence what's happening on the court, right? The full trust is in the 7 that are out there.
Yeah, but I can influence what happens behind the scenes, and everything that I do is to set up for that moment of time. Yep.
What does the celebration look like? Are you in there partying with the team? Are you still trying to sort of keep separation a little bit?
Yeah, and that it's actually a bit of relief. Even though I say these things, it's a bit of a relief, and it's a bit of tiredness that comes over your body all of a sudden. It's always a good job, well done, but it's sort of like, I just, I need it goes a bit hollow. As well afterwards, you do all the stuff that you need to, but it's quite an interesting feel, because it gets to where there's an emptiness in your stomach. If you win, it's like still fulfilled. If you lose, you've lost a major game, you've got this real heartache. It's hard to explain, but it sits really in the pit. But it's always the same sort of. Go straight to my stomach, and then either what next or time to rest.
Yeah, some time alone. Like, is that
time alone? Because a lot of times, yes, I feel sometimes give out a lot of energy, and it's sort of, you've got to try and recruit that yourself and get yourself ready for the next whatever it may be. So time alone's always great. It doesn't happen a lot, but I take it whenever I can.
The crazy environments, those like 10 intense days, or however long beforehand, but the competition, like 10 really intense days, seeing the same people every morning at breakfast, going through the routines, and then the final happens, or your last game happens, and then the day after it's like all gone.
Yeah.
It's like it was a dream.
Yeah. I know. I sometimes think of, like athletes or coaches that go through Olympics, or, your moments of time is for that one race, whether it's 60 seconds or whatever it may. I mean, if you're a 100-metre sprinter, what is it, 9 seconds? You know what I mean? 8 seconds. So I always think of other sports in that. But sometimes you could come out quite psychotic, because of all of the ups and downs, depending what happens on the results. But that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty why I'm a coach, and why I'm in this landscape that I am.
I'll take a little detour to family before I link back up to current day. But 5 kids. The youngest is a teenager?
16.
16 is the youngest.
16 kids?
16, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like that, I just kind of want to give some space to talk about how you've juggled family and work with such high-powered and, pressure-filled jobs, and raising 5 kids at the same time. Like, how did you do it?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I've got family is probably the biggest thing. When my mum and dad were alive, especially my older ones, they always took them when I wasn't around. Ed always had the kids, and we're very lucky as well, because he doesn't have a 9-to-5 job as such. He's his own man. So he's been able to look after the kids. We were always these kids. My kids were, they come to the netball court or whatever, they got no shoes. I've got 4 girls and 1 boy. Hair all over the wear. I'm sure they're still wearing the same clothes that I left them in like 2 days ago. We were that family. Yeah. And I thought, oh God, get home, the house is a mess. Like, it's been trashed all over the wear. First couple of years of my coach, I'll go home and be very upset. And then I'll get home and he goes, huh, your mother's home. I'm leaving you. She's been playing around, like this. It's like I haven't had a job. Your mother's home. And I'm like, I'm tired and all the rest of it. So that was probably, that was a disturbing time of our lives. And then magic was another. I had a lot of Mary Thompson used to take my kids. Very lucky around the magic family. I'll be breastfeeding in between, got the pumps and the team meetings and things like that. So I've always had a lot of people that could help me, my sister-in-law, and they always came when I needed them.
But I feel like netball's a little bit of a unique environment where you do have mums in there playing, support staff, coaching. So it's perhaps a more understanding environment for a mum to be working in?
Yeah, I would like to think so. And we've been able to nurture that over the last maybe 6-7 years where it's part of it. I always think, especially, you know, like our athletes as well, you're blessed to be able to have a child. And, you know, we should never make somebody feel pressurised or feeling stink or whatever if that's the case. So that's my first thinking. You're blessed. So how can we help you, support you? If you still want to play, you still belong. So it's the great thing about netball. And I think synonymous with females, if I'm going to be honest. It's just part of life.
Real ignorant question here, but you would have had athletes that have played, had kids, and then come back again to play. Do you have to adjust the workload, or do you have to adjust the understandings on their physical outputs on the court?
Yeah, very much so. I always think it's about 2 years or so before their body, if that, maybe a bit longer before their body can adjust. But also you've got to take those understandings as well as, you know, the feeding baby, if they're up at night, what does that mean to them as an athlete? And you've got to give and take during that space. But they all come in when they want to play. If they do want to play, they all come in with good intentions, and that's good enough. That's good for me.
Just continuing the sort of the career path, 2019 was this huge success, but then 2023 didn't go to plan. What was the difference? Like, what happened in 2023?
Yeah, you know, isn't that quite ironic? Because, you know, I came in off 2018 being fourth, you know, in Commonwealth Games, been, oh, yay, 2019, oh, here she is, down to the pits of 2023. I took that really hard, like, as I mentioned before, in your gut. I think I bored all over the wear and to those, the closest and dearest to me. And why I did that was, well, one was, it's unacceptable, really, in my mind. Unacceptable for the Silver Ferns to be in that place and space, and for our legacy of our sport. And so that cut me deep. So that's probably the first thing. And out of that then came the idea around me actually applying for my job again. There were obviously options for me just to roll on, but that's not right. Especially, I think, with the history and me coming in the way that I did. At the end, I take full responsibility for that program and that moment of time. So if heads need to be cut, my head needs to be cut in the first place. So hence the interview. Looking at as well, one of our big shooters got injured during that time. And even though it's not about one person, but I know she makes at least 10 or 11 goals. You know, so that's going to make a difference. Otherwise, it changes our game plan up. So when somebody gets injured like 3 days into the tournament, you don't have time to be able to reset. So you go with what you go with. So it took us too long to be able to settle ourselves and then find those connections that needed to happen out on court. In saying that, there were moments that we didn't take. And, you know, like we coughed and spluttered. If we had won this particular game against England, bloody England, then we would have been in the grand final and it would have been all love and light. You know, so same sort of thing, you know, like we had control of at a certain time, but we didn't take it. So that's how the cookie crumbles.
Small margins.
Is there also a case of some of the other countries are getting better as well? Yeah, they are. Jamaica is massive. Oh, my gosh. So a lot of their players are playing in the SSN, which is in Australia. In the day, we used to only have a 2-horse race, which was Aussie and New Zealand, and now we've probably got a good 4 or 5. So Jamaica's definitely there. They've been knocking on the door, whether finalist or whatever it may be, for the Commonwealth Games and the Worlds. Got England, South Africa and Uganda are usually the big ones at the moment with us in Australia. So the landscape has definitely changed, more competitive. In saying that, I thought we still had enough.
Yeah, what does it look like after the devastating sort of exit from a tournament? how do you debrief with the team? Do you give them space? Do you bring everyone in and kind of address it straight away? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, there's a process that usually goes through, and our HPD does that process, and that happens irrelevant of whether it's a win or loss. So usually fill out forms, they go through surveys, individuals, they'll meet people whether as a group, try and pick it apart, meet with me, meet with the management. So that process is pretty set. And then from there, we're very clear about what needs to happen moving forward. And some of that stuff actually went into the interview process and, could I make a difference if I was given that job? And that's, I suppose, what you've got to fight for when you're in the interview.
Did you consider not reapplying?
Yeah, very much so. And it's sort of making sure in myself that I can actually do something. Have I got enough to make the difference? Am I confident that I can take them to where they need to be? Can I back that up? So it goes back into, really looking at yourself and asking some questions of others, your faithfuls in and around, as to what they think and getting it right between the eyes. So you go through that research before you even put your name forward.
How long did that process take for you?
I felt like I was crying since the end of Netball World Cup in 2023. So I think for a good 2 weeks I felt like I was crying every day. And then it was probably about maybe 4 weeks in total.
But I feel like that speaks to your care for the black dress, because you're Silver Fern 108 and you're only the 11th person to coach the team. So it's a unique position that you find yourself in. What do you think about when you hear those two numbers?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. When I think about last year, we celebrated 100th year as netball in New Zealand. And really, and I can't remember the number, but as Silver Ferns, there's not very many of us, so it's a very special place that we got to remember. And as I say, I know for myself, I'm a caretaker of this role. And in my mind, it's making sure that I can put it in a better place for somebody else to take it through to the next bit.
So are you really clear, like in current day, with like excitement for the future? Like you've got the plan, and like what are you excited about now?
Yeah, I'm really excited. This year, 2025, is a big year for us. Honestly, if I don't feel I can shift to where we need to, and it's probably more around the people within, or the athletes within our group, and know that it's solid, then I'm not the right person to take it through. And I'm clear about that. So I'm clear about what our blueprint is. In 2027, we've got to have 7 world-class athletes. At the moment, we only have 1. Every time we have 1, and it's usually on average 13 years, like let's put this into perspective, 13 years on average where we'll win a Netball World Cup. So if I'm still alive, it won't be until 2036. That in itself is exciting, If we can do it in 2027, it's exciting. Cut a few years off. But what's always happened is when we've won, we've had legends of our game who have a lot of experience. We don't have that now. So how I've got to be able to build 4 world class by the time of 2027. Actually, probably by 2026, which is our Commonwealth Games. So in my mind, there's clear stages that I've got to be able to succeed or achieve as we build towards Netball World Cup. So that's around our skill sets. That's around our conditioning. That's around us as selectors getting the right dynamic. And it's also around our leadership space as well. Because I feel if you have leaders that can lead, influence, then others behind them will gladly follow. But really looking at a different model as to how we can have more of a shared leadership space. Because I feel where we currently are, if we can get 1% increase and improvement out of each person, that will be enough each year. I reckon that would be enough. So each person, it may be they've got to be fitter by 1%, they've got to put more goals in by 1%, they've got to get their nutrition by 1%. Because really what we did last year at Constellation Cup, no other Silver Fern team has bet Australia on their home soil and won the Constellation Cup 3-0 with double digits. So it must be enough evidence to say we're heading in the right space, but we've got to squeeze enough out of ourselves. And that's going to come down to the cohesion of our group.
Esther spoke about your innovation, or you look across at other sports, and you've already said today you pinch ideas from other places. Is part of that 1% looking at other sports and trying to pinch and take some ideas and introduce new methods into the Silver Ferns?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what coaching's about in my mind. We have our own way, flavour, but there's other, and we're got abundance with, sports in New Zealand where we hit above our weight. Gordon was one person that you had mentioned, and the Sevens in my hometown, and Mount is another group as well. Like they're wheel beaters, so what do they do that we can pinch and bring it to our sport, but also acknowledging where our sport is at the moment, the people that we have within our own sort of realms, and that togetherness, the female power. I always go on about that, and making sure that we're all pure and I can align it and get that real clear cohesiveness. So I at the moment I'm really happy by our science area of our sport. I think we're ticking along really nicely, but now I'm looking for people power and the right people who want to be there.
I'm not sure if this is what she means by innovation, but she did tell a story about one time when you were in training and you held a pot plant over your head to give you a bit more length to sort of protect against the goal shooters.
Oh, really?
Very innovative training technique. Does it ring a bell?
Yeah. See, I forget about these. One thing actually I did like, this is a cool one. So at the moment, so we did it in Commonwealth Games, and I can't quite here we go. I can't quite remember the song, but when you go out into some of the English crowds, they're very parochial, like they got that way, they sing, the DJ's going, it's a vibe. And we had to get over England once again for us to sort of win third at that moment of time. And our group was very young. It loved music and all the rest of it. And I remember one of our last trainings that we did, and we put the headphone on, and I can't quite remember what the song was. I'm going to ask my counterpart. What?
It's a lovely day.
Oh, it's a lovely day.
Okay.
So what we did was we put the lovely, it's a lovely day, it's a lovely day. So we had the crowd. So what usually happens is when England gets announced going into the stadium, the crowd go wild. Whoa, and the voice, and every time England do something amazing, crowd goes off. So you got your headphones on, we're training, got each individual headphones on, we're training, and the sound, it was like it goes over, it loops over and over. So we can hear the naming of individuals coming on the court, and at moments of time underneath it go, it's a lovely day, it's a lovely day, it's a lovely day. And then we overlay it with New Zealand's got the goal, like Phoenix has got the And then you can hear when England's coming up, it's a lovely day, it's a lovely day. And in my team talk, for that game going in, it's a lovely day, you guys. It's a lovely day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's so cool. So I don't have to say nothing. It's a lovely day.
Yeah.
So when they go in, you can see the smiles.
Yeah.
It's a lovely day. And it's, and then when you hear the crowd, it's love, and they smile,
Yeah.
I don't have to say nothing.
Is that a Knowles original?
That's a Knowles original.
Yeah.
That's a Knowles.
So
Isn't
good.
that cool, eh?
Yeah.
I like that. I thought, oh, God, I like that.
Yeah. That's so cool. That's great
so cool.
insight.
Are you pitching that idea to the rest of the staff at like the staff meeting going, this is what I think we should do?
Sometimes I do, and sometimes I say, nah, let's just do it.
Wow.
We're just going to do it. And sometimes I think, they go, what the hell are you doing? But I can't explain it, but I know what it will look like when it comes out. And it just releases the pressure. But going to a game like that.
That's some good innovation.
Home straight, Knowles, this has been so good. State of netball at the moment. So at the moment, from what I understand, the ANZ Championship doesn't have a broadcast sponsor for next season's competition. No TV would mean no money to pay players. What are you worried about the state of netball's future, or where are we at with it?
Yeah, there is a lot that's happening behind the scenes of netball, whether at the elite level. I think time will tell as to, once we all know what that's going to look like, as to what it looks like in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years' time. What I do know, though, is, man, like, we celebrated 100 years ago, 100 last year, as I mentioned, and we got some hearty people, so yes, it may be in a certain state at this moment of time. It will get out of it, whatever it needs to be, and then it will reposition itself. I feel where we are in the Silver Ferns, I feel comfortable and confident where we are, but also time will tell as to what our results are and can we back up what we're saying. I feel the community game is strong, and that's evidenced by how many girls, how many young boys still play the game. We're still the best female sport in New Zealand. But I also feel it's going to be a telling time for that middle ground of our semi-professional era. So I don't know. I don't know where that's going to sit, but I do know we'll still be alive and we'll find a way, depending, what comes out.
What's your connection to playing netball now? Do you roll the clock back and get a bib on and jump out on court and play at all in like a Masters or a club or anything like where are you at with your netball? Debbie
is a machine. So she still plays in Tauranga, and honestly, like, Debbie's 6 foot whatever she is, and I said, you go out there and you torment those little kids, man. Get off that court. But she loves it. I'm more conservative. I get worried that I'll get out there because my head's going in one place, but I know my body can't. And knowing me, I'll get a bloody torn Achilles or something will happen with my knee, and I can't afford to do that. So I don't. But just yesterday, I was asked if I could support my daughter's netball team and help the current coach who's not going to be coaching for 6 weeks and pick up their trainings. This is big in my land, right? For my 16-year-old girl. Why I say that is because she don't want me near her. Yeah. She does not. I cannot go and watch any games. If I am, I have to be around a tree. I'm an incognito.
A newspaper.
Newspaper. I'm just around.
Like a disguise.
Got my glasses in the dark. She does not like me being there. This is revelation for me.
So you're taking the secondary school?
6 weeks.
Secondary school's team for 6 weeks?
Her team. And I said to the current, can you please tell my daughter? I said, you need to tell my daughter and tell her that you've asked me to do this because she won't be happy.
Imagine that.
Imagine those girls. By the way, Dame Noeline Taurua is going to be coaching us for 6 weeks.
Here's a set of headphones for each of you.
And I love it. Those kids will do a TikTok before we start. I'm a TikToker. I know what you guys like. So, I don't get out on court, but that's the next best thing. And if I can get to my daughter and coach her, I'll be happy.
What does the future hold for you? Is it netball, or is there one point you'll walk away from the game and do something else?
Yeah, I'm one of these people that what will happen will be what will happen will be what will happen. I'm very much in my gut. I like to be with like-minded people. And what I say about that is not like we're like-minded, but like to be challenged. We can talk, good vibes, have a laugh, work hard. Got a vision moving forward and we go for it. So that's probably one thing. I like a warm place. I like my house clean. And wherever that will take me will be wherever that takes me. But I've got a lot of things on the go at the moment and really helping out with some of the community stuff, and I enjoy that. So I don't know. Yeah.
Knowles, it's been so cool chatting with you. This has been such a great episode. I've loved it. Thank you for coming in and sharing so much of your life and story and career with you. It's been cool just to unpack it.
Yeah, it's been... I think like a lot of people, I probably had a perception of who you were based on what I see. And then I spoke to a couple of your former players. I spoke to Debbie, and they painted a very different picture. And then you've come in here, and the connection for me has been immediate. And your ability and willingness to share your ideas and share the way you think and how reflective you are on how you've got to where you are today has been really, really refreshing to hear and to take away. So thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I've enjoyed it too, as well. As I say, my head does me in sometimes, but I've really enjoyed the moment, really enjoyed the podcast that you've been able to put out there. And I think the biggest thing is about how we share. Sharing and caring is all good.
Love it. Thanks so much, Knowles.
Thank you, guys.
Amazing.